mob protests and vandalism broke out in multiple locations throughout Hong Kong on Sunday. Police used pepper spray and made multiple arrests. Small groups of black-clad pro-democracy protesters targeted some of the city's malls. The deployed riot police used pepper spray and made at least 8 arrests in at least 2 shopping centres as members of the public heckled the officers. Dozens of protesters also marched past shops and people eating at restaurants, chanting slogans in Taikoo Plaza. Several hundred Hong Kong residents held a vigil on Sunday for a protester who fell to his death outside a luxury mall 6 months ago after holding up a banner, some laid with white flowers, as others softly hummed "Sing Hallelujah, Hallelujah" to commemorate Ling Ling Kit, known as Raincoat Man for what he wore at the time. Hong Kong has been embroiled in its worst political crisis in decades since June, with the anti-government protests opposing a populist challenge to China's leader Xi Jinping, complicating ties between China and the US at a time of heightened tensions, including over trade. Female Turkish lawmakers protested violence against women late by singing a Chilean song in parliament that has been taken up in demonstrations globally. 8 MPs from the main opposition party banged on parliamentary tables and sang a Turkish version of the song. Their colleagues held up some 20 pictures of the faces of the women and said to have been killed in domestic violence. Last week, 7 demonstrators were detained in Istanbul at a so-called protest called La Tesis, named after a Chilean feminist collective that inspired a song and dance called "The Rapist Is You." Iraqi protesters have rejected Mohammad Shia Al-Sudani's nomination to become the country's new prime minister. Gathering at the Tahrir Square, the demonstrators voiced their opposition against Al-Sudani's nomination. Protesters said that Al-Sudani was a biased politician. They would prefer a leader from within the protest movement. Al-Sudani is a frontrunner to head Iraq's interim government amid ongoing protests, which forced the resignation of former Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi in November. Tear gas engulfed central Beirut as security forces clashed with protesters near Lebanon's parliament on Sunday in a second night of street clashes that wounded dozens of people. Hundreds of people returned to demonstrate despite a fierce crackdown by security forces the night before, when clashes had also injured dozens. It marked the most violent unrest in the capital in a historic wave of protests that has swept Lebanon since October 17 and pushed Saad al-Hariri to resign as prime minister. The protests erupted from anger at a political elite that has overseen decades of corruption and steered the country towards its worst economic crisis since the 1975 to 1990 civil war. Police fired tear gas and struck demonstrators with batons on Sunday in India's capital city, New Delhi, where thousands of people protested against a new law that will give citizenship to non-Muslims fleeing religious persecutions from several neighbouring countries. Third day of what had been a peaceful demonstration against the law passed by India's parliament last week descended into chaos Sunday afternoon. 3 buses were set on fire and 6 police personnel were injured in an upscale enclave of South Delhi. The Chinese mainland city Zhuhai has supplied over 2.2 billion cubic meters of fresh water to the Macau Special Administrative Region in 60 years, helping the Special Administrative Region to secure water supply. Lying on the western side of the Pearl River Delta, Macau suffered from fresh water shortage for years due to the water's salinity that is caused by the intake of seawater into parts of the Pearl River Delta. Macau does not have rivers, and its limited land deprives the possibility of building a large reservoir. A drought in 1959 left Macau facing a great water scarcity, and so diverting water from the neighboring mainland city of Zhuhai was an initial attempt to address its water shortage. Hundreds of actors reenacted the American defense of the southern Belgian town of Bastogne during World War II. The show was in fact part of the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. December 16, 1944, more than 200,000 German troops counterattacked across the front line in Belgium and Luxembourg. The German troops smashed into the battle-weary US soldiers positioned in terrain completely unknown to them. Americans somehow blunted the advance and started turning back the enemy, setting Allied troops on a roll that eventually ended the war in Europe less than 5 months later. UN climate talks at the COP25 summit in Madrid have finally come to an end without any substantial deal. The delegates, however, reached a partial agreement on the key questions of increasing global response to curbing carbon emissions. The decision on how to regulate carbon markets has been postponed until next year, with discussions that lasted over 12 days. 2 days extra. COP25 summit is the longest but ultimately fruitless climate negotiation on record. Strong 6.8 magnitude earthquake struck the island nation of Philippines on Sunday. The earthquake was centered 71 kilometers southwest of the Davao on the island of Mindanao. At least one person, a child, was killed in the quake and many others were injured. The tremors also damaged several buildings in the region, spreading panic amongst people who came out on the streets. Schools in the area and the neighboring cities have been closed to allow for a check on the stability of the building. A threat of a tsunami following the tremors has been ruled out. Climate activist Greta Thunberg and Germany's National Railway Company created a tweet storm on Sunday after she posted a photo of herself sitting on the floor of a train surrounded by lots of luggage. Thunberg posted the tweet late on Saturday with a comment, "Traveling on overcrowded trains through Germany and I'm finally on my way home." The image drew plenty of comments online about the performance of German railways. Some Twitter users expressed pity for Thunberg for not being able to get a proper seat on the train for the long ride home from Madrid. A caravan, a burning cathedral and several other were on show at Sweden's annual Christmas baking competition, with an environmental-friendly mobile home winning People's Vote now in its 29th year. The competition theme this year was hot and it attracted a record 202 entries. On display at the Arcadis Museum of Architecture and Design, these ranged from gingerbread sculptures of Swedish teenage activist Thunberg and Swedish saunas to a model of France's Notre Dame Cathedral, which suffered a major fire earlier this year. Dozens of Greeks of all ages donned red suits and white beards and ran through the capital's central streets for the annual charity race Santa Run, Athens 2019. Santa runners paid a €12 participation fee to run in a 2.5-kilometer symbolic race that took place for the 6th time in Athens. Participants celebrated with music, confetti and balloons. Everybody received a medal. This year's race profit will be given to Children's Charity Together for Children and the Athens Municipality Cultural, Sport and Youth Organization. The most famous Christmas tree in Brazil was lit up in Rio de Janeiro for the first time this year. Thousands gathered to watch the 70-meter-high tree being switched on and the 7-minute fireworks show, which followed. The tree is lit up by 900,000 LEDs and the height of the 24-story building. A third biggest cultural event in Rio de Janeiro. Behind New Year's Eve and Carnival, the tree inauguration marks the beginning of Christmas celebrations in the city. The tree will be switched on every night until January 6th. Hundreds of people packed into main square of the Israeli city of Jaffa on Sunday to watch the lighting ceremony of a Christmas tree. 15-meter tree was lit in festive colors, prompting the crowd to burst into cheers and applause. Jaffa is a southern part of Tel Aviv, Jaffa municipality, and maintains a minority of the Arab Christians and Muslims in addition to its Jewish residents. Home of a local businessman decked with hundreds of thousands of LED lights east of the Philippine capital Manila attracts dozens of visitors each night over the Christmas season. Alexander Cruz, owner of the Christmas House, first started opening the doors of his elaborately decorated home around 20 years ago. Attraction in suburban Cienata, Rizal province has become a staple in the community and has its fair share of regular visitors each year. Thousands of motorbike enthusiasts donning Santa Claus costumes took part in a traditional Christmas parade in Barcelona. The initiative started in 2013 and increased to a record 7,000 participants in 2018. Whilst parading the streets of the Catalan capital, the participants received gifts from onlookers. Gifts were later donated to sick children by the local Red Cross. Nearly 4,000 runners dressed up in Santa Claus costumes took part in a race on Sunday in the southwestern Paris suburb of SLS in the 42nd edition of the event, which is comprised of various races for the young and the old. Hundreds of children competed in the elf, snowman and reindeer races. It was time for the Santas to flash their red and white suits. For a 10-kilometer run each year, the annual event, known as a Christmas Corrida, donates the money gathered from participants to several charities. This year, 11,000 euros will be given to 4 local children charities that support the fight against diseases and cancer, among others.
Je répète une nouvelle fois que tous les enfants sont perdus, qui sont seuls, qui cherchent les parents.
Surfer's Christmas list is slightly different this time. Carlos Bahia is a surf instructor in the city of Sao Sebastião, and every December he dons his Santa costume to celebrate Christmas and bring a smile to children's faces. But unlike most Santa Clauses around the world, he does not sit on a chair to heap a child's wish list. He rides the waves of best break in the region. And he is not just showing off, he uses the attention his costume brings to collect donations from local businesses and distributes gifts every Christmas to children from backgrounds of poverty in the region. It turns out that surfing Santa has much in common with the real Santa Claus. A 48-day temple elephant rejuvenation camp has begun in India's southern state of Tamil Nadu. 28 temple elephants from across the state have been brought to the rejuvenation camp in Thikampati village, located on the outskirts of Coimbatore city. Elephants are given bath decorated, fed herbs along with fruits during the camp. Health checkups are also conducted to reduce their stress levels. A camp offers a comfortable atmosphere to jumbos, after which they usually gain weight and their happiness level goes up. Strange monsters wearing grotesque masks and bulky shaggy costumes could be seen roaming the countryside in Germany at the shortest day of the year approaches. The monsters are unleashed to ward off winter's darkness and reawaken nature with loud stamping and chanting and flaming torches. Another common costume at the procession is a mask depicting the two-faced goddess, with one side a devil and the other longed for the sun. The parades are a centuries-old tradition across the region of southern Germany and Austria. Discovery of China's most complete Western Han Dynasty cemetery won the Field Discovery Award at the 4th Shanghai Archaeology Forum, which was held on Saturday in East China's Shanghai municipality. Forum unveiled 3 important awards, namely the Life Achievement Award, Field Discovery Award and Research Award. The discovery of the tomb of the Hai Hun Ho is one of the 10 winners of the Field Discovery Award, and also the only nominated archaeology project from China. Hai Hun Ho, which means Marcus Hai Hun, was a title given to Liu He, who had short-lived reign of 27 days as emperor after he was dethroned due to his debauchery. Located near Nanjiang city, East China's Xinjiang province, the 2,000-year-old tomb is one of the few imperial tombs that has not been looted, with the most intact structure, distinct layout and complete sacrificial system. Michael Kingsbury and Pierre Lafont cruised to dual moguls wins on Sunday as the FIS Freestyle Ski World Cup event in China. Canadian, in fact, Kingsbury outdueled France's Benjamin Cavett in the big final, narrowly beating him down the slope and finishing with a total score of 88.34 to Cavett's 84.80 to earn the gold. Men's third small final, it was Japan's Ikuma Horishima easily taking the bronze after Britain's Thomas Gherkin Schofield slowed up in the middle of the run after making an error on the women's side. Lafont also got an easy win after American Jaylene Koff wiped out in the middle of the big final, while the Frenchwoman cruised to a total score of 82.36. The freestyle ski world goes on holiday before heading to Canada's Mont Tremblant on January 25th.